Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just
It's time
chill.
to bring you yet
Life
another
Well
amazing
Lived
episode.
by Omobola
And now,
Stephen. Live
welcome
life,
your host.
live fully.
Good to have you on the show. This is Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. I'm the host, Omobola Stephen. On Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, we explore topics that cover personal development and self-improvement with disruptive yet constructive mindship conversations from professionals and industry leaders who have been there and done that, and all about sharing this profound insight on personal development and self-improvement that is literally going to move you from where you are to where you need to be. And now the focus and the mission of Flywell Lead by Omobola Stephen is for us to begin to pivot the positive transformation that you and I need in this side of eternity, and also to emphasize the importance of embracing personal development and self-improvement along the course of our lives, because when we do so, we tend to find ourselves along the way. And in finding ourselves, we realize that there's so much endless bounties that life has in store for us. Now, when we don't give up, it is very, very important for us to intentionally consider looking inwards and asking the right questions. And in other words, when we ask the right questions, we always get to find the right answers. So I have Micheal Dorfman, a certified health and nutrition life coach and investigative author, on the show with me. Thank you for joining me, Micheal Dorfman. Good to have you on the show and looking forward to a great time.
Great, Omobola. Great, glad to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Glad to have you once again. At 83, Micheal speaks passionately about how food, mindset, and daily habits can radically transform health at any age. Now, that's so profound indeed. And so, why do we fall sick, and how can we maximize or harness our body's self-healing powers?
Well, I think first of all, I'd like to just mention what my basic belief of our greatest gift was the gift of life that we all have. I don't think there's any debate of what our greatest gift is, because without the gift of life, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the other gifts. And then we have the other gift, which I think we overlook most of the time as a gift, and that is the gift of our body. Because without our body, there would be no place for life to live. So to me, if I feel the preciousness, I try to remember the preciousness of this life and this body. And once I realize how important it is to have a healthy body in order to be able to live a complete and fulfilled life, then I need to take care of my body. And that sort of got me on this road of seeing how important it is to take care of our body. And to me, the self-healing power of our body is actually self-evident, because ever since we were born, that's what our body's been doing. It's been taking care of ourselves, taking care of us, and making sure that we, enjoy our life, that we are free of disease. The body is the one who does the health self-healing. And I think what happens, during our lifetime, we sort of get off this track, and we forget about that. It's the body that's really doing the healing, that it's the doctor we go to who actually helps our body, because, a doctor can put a cast, we break our bone, but it's the body that heals the bone, or it's the body that heals we get a wound or a cut or a burn. It's the body that does the work. And the doctor is the one who should help the body do its work. But I think we've got off track, and we look at the doctor as the main healer, and we forget that the importance of our body, the immune system the body has, and just the general self-healing powers that keep us healthy.
Right. So we are really often advised to watch out on our diet and lifestyle in order for us to prevent, diseases into our body. And then we often face diet problems along the line. Can we talk?
Yeah, sure. We're into there are so many diets that people get into. many people just jump from one diet to another. I think Wikipedia has over 100 diets listed, and I think we're confused. I think there's so much information and so many books that are written and so many people promoting different diets that we're not sure what to eat. And it's really interesting because if you look at animals have no problems knowing what to eat. The cat knows what to eat. Our dog, crocodiles, elephants, they just know what to eat. It's the human being that is, we just jump around and we're not, convinced, and it ends up. And I think one of the problems is that, I think weight loss has become, for many people, the most important thing, because there are many, problems with weight loss, not only in the United States, in Mexico too, where I live. But I think that when you go for weight loss and you forget about the health as the main goal, then it's then it becomes a one-sided situation, and people are just focusing on weight loss because to look good, to feel better. But there's a whole other topic of our health, whether it's physical, mental, emotional health, that's so important, that sometimes we overlook, and that's why we have problems.
But really, yes, but really, having the right, keeping the right shape is also part of achieving overall wellness. Don't you think so?
I do think so, but as far as I see it and I'm concerned, I think if we focus on what's the best diet for us to follow, the healthiest diet for us to follow, I think that our body will take care of itself, and instead of the other way around. So that's what I'm into. That's the way I feel. I'm 83 years old. I'm really thriving, as in my age category, and I'm enjoying my life. I go to the gym. I do exercise beside my diet, my plant-based diet, which I've been following for 17 years now. So I think that weight takes care of itself. That's what I found, and I know a lot of people are also doing, eating more plants, more grains, whatever, the whole plant, you know, civilization, which is there for us to eat. If we do that, if we focus on that, I think the weight in most cases will take care of itself. There are people have, other problems with weight, but in general, I think that's what people need to understand, that when you eat a healthy diet, then you take care of yourself, and the body finds its weight, its ideal weight, uh, because that's its healthy weight. So I think that's what we should focus on more than just focusing on losing weight, because I don't think that will definitely solve the health problem, even if we lose the weight.
Right. Now, focusing on healthy diet, right, can really can really be challenging at this time. Yes, we have the constraints of the stressful life that we all as humans are facing at such a changing times that we are in. So do you think the plant-based diets are just what you shared earlier? Do you think it's absolutely for everyone? Let us just begin to consider the cultures of other people. Doesn't it come to play when it comes to diet and lifestyle?
Well, I think that I've sort of changed my opinion a little bit. I'm fully plant based. I became a vegetarian in 1976, so I was doing that for decades before I turned plant based. And I think that what's important, maybe even there are the longest living and healthiest people on the planet live in it's I don't know if you've heard of the blue zones, but they live in the blue zones, which are areas in the world where research has found, when Dan Buettner wrote his book on the blue zones, he was sent by National Geographic to find out where the healthiest and longest living people on the planet live. So he found this out, and he was checking out well, what similarities are there between these zones? Because they're in different parts of the world. There's one in Japan, there's one in Greece, there's one in Italy, there's one in Costa Rica, and there's even one in the United States in Loma Linda, California, which is considered one of the healthiest and longest living places in the world. So he was looking for the similarities in these different places, and he found them. And one of the basic similarities among all these places is a basic plant-based life. Even though they ate different plant-based foods, that was one of the basis of their the cultures of the population. So, and they didn't eat 100% in most cases plants, but the majority, I would say at least around 90%, they ate. Some places ate, like in Okinawa, they ate, fish because that's what they had near there, and they ate different foods, different. I forgot what it was. They had some meat there. So what I'm trying to say is there are certain things in ingredients in plants, the makeup of plants, that are absolutely necessary to be healthy. And we can get into that because that's why I feel that if we just focus on meat, because there's a tremendous movement towards protein. Protein has always been, to me, it's an obsession of the American culture and the Western culture more than anything. In other parts of the world, they eat more plants. There are places that hardly eat any meat at all in the Orient, for example. And so the most important thing is that we need to have people like, for me, I've been plant-based, and I'm always getting the question, where do you get your protein from? It still goes on. And my dentist asked me the question. So many people ask me, well, where do you get your protein from? And I get my protein from the same places that some of the strongest animals in the world get their protein from, whether it's the gorilla or the elephant or the cow, well, the horse, so many, even in the prehistoric times, the largest animals in the world well, the brontosaurus, they got their protein from the leaves off of trees. So I get my protein from the same place that they get their protein. I mean, that's where protein initially comes from. The cow eats the protein from the grass, supposedly, even though that's not the case in most cases right now. So what the animals eat the cow, and we eat the animals. So, there's the option of going straight to the plants to get our protein, and also avoid some of the things that aren't so healthy in animal products. So that's the way I see it. And also, there are so many athletes that are vegans, elite athletes who are eating plant-based. We have Djokovic, who's the number one tennis player, the Williams sisters. There's just so many elite athletes, and there's the possibility. So there's no problem. You hardly ever hear of somebody who's dying, was very sick from protein deficiency. It's from other reasons. So you can easily get enough proteins, which I do. I play pickleball 4 or 5 times a week, and I'm very active. So that's what I'm trying to say, that there's no problem with getting the vitamins, the minerals from whole plant-based foods.
All right, Micheal, having said that, don't you think that the root cause of all of these, who we should be addressing, the state actors at this moment, are the manufacturers of these foods? Don't you think we also need to begin to consider them? And the accessibility of plant-based nutrients or foods is something that is also challenging, right?
Yeah, well, the manufacturers, well, that gets us into the whole other topic of the processed foods, which is tremendous now. It's just, and it keeps getting worse and worse, because that's a major cause of our health problems, are the ultra processed foods. And even the plant-based ultra processed foods, there's so many different ingredients. And I know that, for example, in Robert Kennedy Jr. Now, as you know, the head of the Health and Humanities Services, he's focusing on that. Getting rid of the processed foods, because the processed foods is causing a lot of sickness. So I think that we have to add that as a very important emphasis on why we're unhealthy. And more than ever, the ultra processed foods are what we find in the supermarket, which so many people eat in the aisles of the central aisles of the supermarkets, is something we really have to try to avoid. That's why when I talk about food, talking about whole foods, that's what we need to go for, because that's what our body loves to eat, is real whole foods.
All right. So, are there any lifestyle practices we need to start incorporating into our daily activities?
Absolutely. And that's the other part of this story, because it's not only what we eat, even though I believe that what we eat is the most important thing we must do, is think about what we eat, and that we eat healthy. We have the other part of the story is the problems of exercising. We need to exercise, and that was when, going back to the blue zone people. They have, for example, exercise is very important. Reducing bad stress. That's one of the biggest things that affects us now. Our health is bad stress. Bad stress that happens, through our problems with our income. We're not making enough money, so we worry about that, and that causes the stress hormones to activate, and that can just completely cause chaos in our bodies. So we have to avoid excess stress, whether it's through the problems with economic problems or our job problems. So many people are getting fired from their jobs. The economic situation that people are facing, maybe relationships, that cause stress. So it's really important to find the ways to, to manage your stress situation, but also to be active. We're living in a world now that's focusing on cell phones and screens, and so many people are just sitting, and they have that's their main job, is doing podcasts. So, and just well, the young kids now on the phone all the time. When I was young and grew up, we used to be so active because we didn't have all these distractions. So we used to go out in the street, play with our friends, and it was a different type of lifestyle when I was young, in the 50s. So that's changing so much now. So now, with people focusing on on the digital world and AI, and there's a problem, and we have to really remember that we have to be active as much as possible, whether it's doing exercise, doing whether, I don't know, whether it's yoga, whether it's tai chi, being active, going into the nature, and if you have a garden, working your garden. And even if you're sitting by the computer, or you on your phone watching TV, and we need to get up. We can't sit around, because sitting is not healthy. And that's one of the problems, especially when we get older, because when we get older, the body starts, is sort of slowing down. That's the tendency of the body. And we can't go along with that, because a lot of people retire and they just say, well, I'm not going to do anything anymore. I'm just going to hang out, and just sit out in the porch or whatever. And for me, that's I'm the exact opposite. I just say, no, we got to go be more active, So, and that's and another part of the thing is having relationships. When that was one of the other things in the what do you call it, the blue zones, was being a part of community, having relationships, caring relationships, in communities, whether it's a religious community, whether it has a focus, the community. But that's really important, to feel the love and the care of other people. So that's part of our growth group, because human beings are, with that's what we want. we're that type of an animal that we enjoy our living together with other people, being with other people. And another thing that's very important is having a purpose in our lives. And that's what I find. For me, that was a very important thing, because when I was a young, I used to write a lot. I was a writer then, and then I was involved in different things in the youth movement, and I was an activist. So I used to write a lot, and then I became when I settled down and I had a job, and I forgot about writing, and I always wondered what happened to my writing. I used to really enjoy writing, and then when I retired, I started writing again, and I found out that I had something more to write about. So that was my purpose. My purpose, I have a purpose now, and I think that's very important that people have a reason to be alive, a reason, a meaning, not just going and doing the daily thing, the chores and what you're doing, but something deeper. And I think you talked about it at the very beginning when you presented your program, something inside that that needs to be, that's there. Every human being has that, that we have this person inside of us that's the same as it was when we were young and we were kids. The only thing is that we forget about it because of all the stuff that's happening on the outside. So I think it's important to be in touch with our inner resources and then find meaning. And I think that helps us live, be healthier and live a longer life. So I think that's very important as well.
Thank you so much, Michael. Now, on the minds of the audience is the issue of a society that is really dependent on pharmaceuticals or drugs or medicine. Now, I mean, there are substances that are used to diagnose, treat, alleviate, or prevent diseases. So, how is it impossible for us not to depend on pharmaceuticals or drugs? Can we ever have a society that wouldn't be dependent on pharmaceuticals or drugs?
Well, I think that the problem is, how far do we go to one extreme or the other? And I think that the pharmaceutical industry is so powerful in this country, even though I'm living in Mexico. Mexico's the same thing. We do the same thing that they do in the US, but it's so powerful. I mean, the United States and New Zealand are the only countries in the world that allow pharmaceuticals to put ads and publicity on TV. And that's amazing. And I didn't even know that. That I know Mexico, you don't have that. You don't have the advertising on the TV, and that's what you see in the U.S. It's that, and first of all, you watch the ads for unhealthy foods, and then you watch the ads for the drugs or the pharmaceutical drugs that will help you with when you get sick from the unhealthy foods. So this is it's a powerful movement by the pharmaceutical industry, and that's what when doctors go to they go to medical school. What do they learn? They learn what they learn through medical school, but there's so much influence of drugs and well the other type of the things that they prescribe. But that's why when you go to a doctor, instead of being the number one go-to, default as just, okay, take this drug, take this pharmaceutical. What about the person? It's doctors aren't really that interested. I'm not saying all doctors at all, but most doctors aren't that interested in really learning about what is it you eat? What is your lifestyle like? What is your past? How are you as a person? As I remember that Hippocrates, considered the father of modern medicine, one of his quotes was, "It's more important than learning the disease what a person has is to learn about the person who has the disease." And that is not what's being practiced now. It's you have this problem, you have this is what's wrong with you, diabetes, or you have a heart problem, or you have obesity, take this drug. There's so many other options that are more natural. And whether or not you decide to, to take a drug, you should know about the other options. It's like when you go to a doctor, what questions the doctor said, well, I prescribes a drug. Are there other options? What happens if I don't take that drug? And then what comes into play is, alternatives. And I found out that there are alternatives. I want to tell this story about, it's a short story about this friend of ours. And this is where I really got into doubting a lot about the medical industry. When I first became plant-based, this was a couple of years after. We were living, my wife and I were living in Cancun. And we had a friend, Beatrice, who lived in Cozumel, which is an island off of Cancun. And she had a heart attack. And they rushed her to the hospital, and she had a quadruple bypass heart surgery. And she was in very bad shape when she had it. She actually had a heart attack when she was on the operating table. But she went through the heart surgery, and they sent her home, and she was okay for a year or so. And then she had complained about pain in her arm. They called her back to the hospital, and they wanted to replace the vein that was now connected to the heart. They wanted to replace it, put a stent in. But the problem was they couldn't put the stent in because the vein was too narrow. So they told her that there wasn't much they could do for her, that she should go home and just don't do too much exercise, don't climb, stairs, even though her bedroom was on the second floor. What they didn't tell her, and they told my wife and they told her son, that she had about 6 months to live. So she went home, and I was already on 2 years into the plant-based nutrition, and I heard about this, and I knew about this doctor, Caldwell Esselstyn. He was a cardio surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic in the U.S., which is considered one of the top heart clinics in the world. So he was there. He was actually the chief of staff at the Cleveland Clinic. He's retired now. He's in his 90s. So he was, every year he was saying, how come with all these drugs and all these interventions, heart disease keeps getting worse, it increases not only in the United States, but around the world. So he got into plant-based as an option. And what he was doing, even while he was at the Cleveland Clinic, he was taking rejected heart patients and putting them on plant-based diets. And he had over 90% success rate. So he wrote this book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And I gave Beatrice this book, and I told her to read it. And she read the book, and she became, she went about 90% plant-based. And instead of living 6 years, she lived 9 years. 6 months, she lived 9 years. And she passed away from something else. So to me, this was like the complete wake-up call. How come doctors recommend and they talk about a real diet, a plant-based diet, when there are so many studies on this around, being done by doctors all over the world? But they don't. Because there's so much influence. This is what I see. There's so much influence from the pharmaceutical companies. There's so much money to be made, and this is what the pharmacists they visit the doctors and say, here's the new drug, and if you give this drug, you offer this drug, there's a little kickback from you, and that's unfortunate. But there's so much money to be made. So a doctor, may say, okay, well, I just have to spend 5 minutes with the patient instead of talking to the patient for a half hour, and we'll give it a try. And this is why we don't have the options, because, and there's another factor, is that the majority of the hospitals, more than the majority of hospitals, where you go for medical education, they don't offer more than a few hours of nutrition courses. So doctors don't know about nutrition. And the only way they can find out about the power of nutrition is by doing it on their own and studying it on their own, and then saying, okay, you have to have a low-fat, dry diet, whatever they subscribe. but we don't get that. And that's the problem with the pharmaceutical companies. It's the same thing what happened with the cigarette companies in the 1940s and 50s. There was so much power, even though we knew at that time that the connection between cigarette smoking and cancer, they kept it down. The cigarette companies for 20 years, they didn't allow that information to come out to people. So that's what I investigated that, and this is what's happening in our health in the medical world.
Really, I think this is a big issue that is facing the medical world. Indeed, the topic of nutrition is not really that extensive. It should be an extensive teaching that should be taught in the medical school. And I think this is something the government also needs to begin to factor in. Thank you once again. And now your book, Information Warfare. Excuse me. You had a book, Information Warfare, which is Battle for Truth and Freedom. What was the inspiration behind this, and what are some important takeaways in the book?
Oh, this is so great because it's such an important topic today. What's going on around the world. I think that my investigation it happened because I was really interested in questioning everything. And when I question things about the health world, what things we should be doubting about what we're being told. The same thing would happen with cigarettes, and we never questioned that. And then when I was an activist during the Vietnam War, and I believed that the government was telling us the truth, that they knew what was right, and these were the bad people, and these were the communists. They were we have to do, go to war against them. And I believed that. And then I had friends who didn't quite believe that, and they were telling me and they were showing me things. So people are dying over there, and we have to be sure that why are we doing this? So it ended up that I started doing research, and then I became a protester. And it was when we found out that the Vietnam War was a war that we should have stopped, never even entered, and stopped long before it lasted for more than a decade. And I found it was because of the protesting that helped to finally end the war. And then they continued. Then we got involved in the Iraq War, where it was the weapons of mass destruction. We went into that war. And then we found out they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction. So all these things coming together were telling me that who is behind all these. We're told certain things. The media is telling us things about what's going on in the world today. And then I start looking at the media, and I just see that the mainstream media is telling only one side of the story, just like they told us one side of the story with Iraq, or one side of the story with Vietnam, or one side. And to me, that's why I decided that I am an investigative author. I'm going to investigate it. I'm going to question everything, absolutely everything, especially when I see that the majority is saying this, to say, uh-oh, I got to question that, because that's what happens. It's the power of the media, whether it's, the government who's, behind the media, pushing the media, or it's corporations, or it's industries, or it's the deep state, the weapons manufacturers. Why are we pushing weapons? Why are we pushing wars? Is it the weapons manufacturers have a say behind that, or the people who, and then when they start saying we're the good guys and they're the enemies. And then I said, well, how true is that? Is it black and white? Is it that way? But so then I got into it. So that's what I try to expose in that book, is that who is behind, there are powers that are trying to make us believe and act in certain ways, because they make profit, or they get control over us. And that's what the book is all about. And that's what we're going through now. These wars that we're having, excuse me, why can't we end these wars? And that's what I think right now is the big question. And is, we have these powers fighting each other, and I question, well, where are the human beings? Where's the humanity? What's happening in Gaza, is the killing of so many innocent people, and why aren't we stopping these wars? So these are the things I question, and that's what I try to bring out. The whole book was about question everything. We have to listen to all sides of the stories, and if we don't, we're going to just favor one side. And if that side wants to kill, then we're going to be behind it. And there are people who don't want war anymore. Most of the world does not want war right now. Most of the people of the world would really love to just enjoy their lives and just live happy, be friends, have a home, enough to live on, enough to eat. That's what people want. Everybody wants the same thing, basically, but we have these pushed by these governments that are not stopping it. And that's why I feel that we have to wake up, and we have to do our duty to really check out and investigate, what's really going on. And that means listening to the all sides of the story, and then making a conscious decision of, what do I really believe? And really listening to our own gut feelings of, like, does that sound right? Or does, and I think that's really important. We have to listen to ourselves again.
Thank you so much, Micheal. Do you have any additional projects aside your book project, or important information you think is going to add value to the audience? If you have those, you can share that. And if there is none, you can go ahead, share your social media handles and your website, so we can connect and learn more about you and what you've been up to.
Well, what I'd like to do is mention a new book I'm writing. It's called The Longevity Wellness Revolution, and I'm really into it. And I'm starting because I received my certification as a life coach, but I'm into longevity because I'm a longevity guy now in my 80s. And in this book, I'm trying to because we have this concept of when we get old, that we're over the hill, or we have nothing more we can contribute to society, and just will hang around and wait, and but to me, I see longevity as a new stage of life, and that's what I'm trying to get across in this book, that we have a wisdom of a life experience, and we have something that we could share with the world as we get older. In other parts of the world, in the Orient, there are so many people, so many countries and civilizations where the elderly are revered for their knowledge and their guidance. And we don't have that in the West. It's sort of we're put in homes, or you can't, you have nothing to give. And I'm trying to bring people to say, yes, we can. And this is what I'm trying to express in this book, that we can really be fulfilled as we get older, not just survive as we older. We can live a vibrant life into our 80s and 90s, and even past that.
Thank you for that. Your website, do you have any, or your social media handles? Well, they're optional.
Well, MichealJDorfman.com. Very simple. And you can even go on YouTube. If you put Micheal J. Dorfman on YouTube, you'll see a whole bunch of my videos there. And I have on Substack, I have a Substack platform, and I put out weekly articles on Substack, on health, or on what's happening in the world, on nutrition, on the climate change, different things, everything that I get into that I'm not sure if I agree with the mainstream media.
Thank you so much, Micheal Dorfman, for sharing your thoughts on today's show. I really had a great time listening to your professional insight, talking about, how we can radically transform our lives when we intentionally focusing on taking care of our body and also be mindful of what we take in, incorporating healthy lifestyle into our daily routine in order for us not just to live, but live a worthwhile and fulfilling life. At 83, you speak passionately about our food, our mindset, and also our daily habits can transform our health at any age. And I think that's absolutely very profound. Now, Micheal Dorfman is a certified health and nutrition life coach and also an investigative author. Good to have you once again. And we sincerely wish you best of luck in your book projects and all the subsequent projects you're going to embark upon in the nearest future, Micheal.
Thank you very much, Omobola. I really love the program.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor and delight to have you on the show. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the show, you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms. Just search for Live by Omobola Stephen, and there you go. Do have a great time as you listen to Mind Shift Insight, conversations that are disruptive yet constructive in nature, that is going to pivot at the positive changes and transformation that you and I need in life indeed. I need you always to stay safe. I talk to you soon. Thank you once again, Micheal Dorfman. We had a great time on the show today.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.